Welcome, Barb Wagner, Chief Economist at the Montana Department of Labor and Industry, and she's also the official state economist for the state of Montana. And I want to thank you first, Barb, for agreeing to give us a little economic update at our Kalispell luncheon on July 28th. And so if you wouldn't mind, give us a little background about yourself so that we can kind of know what to prepare for.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Todd. I am super excited to be joining you in Kalispell up in July for this presentation and for the Governor's Cup Golf Tournament. It's both, how can you get a better weekend to get economics, golfing, and of course the flatheads. So I think it'll be definitely a good time. A little bit about me. I am Barb Wagner. I've worked here at the Department of Labor as the state economist since about 2008. So now made it through 2 recessions with the state of Montana, and hopefully not 3. We're gonna try to push that one off as much as we possibly can. And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about in the presentation up in Kalispell. So more about myself. I'm from Northeast Montana, grew up on a farm. It looks like this. Not right now, but hopefully will in about another month. And have lived in Montana for most of my life with, exceptions, lived in Minnesota for a while, and then I worked in Washington, D.C. for 3 years, working on Capitol Hill. And after that, I decided that economics was a lot better than politics. So I came back here and started working for the state of Montana as an economist.
A lot more predictable than Capitol Hill. That's saying something when economics is more predictable than Capitol Hill.
That's true. I really enjoyed my time in Washington, D.C., and it was really a historic moment. I was there during September 11th, actually, and then the aftermath after that was one of the people that was displaced because of anthrax in our building. So it was kind of an exciting time in D.C., but I really missed Montana, of course. I missed the connection to the outdoors, which is not something I would have said about myself before living in an urban area where you can't just go out and enjoy the outdoors. I didn't realize that other people didn't have that same opportunity that we have. And I'm really, sometimes it's great to be out of the state to really recognize what great benefits we have here. And I think more than anything else, I hated how in politics you always fought for something and then you had to make that same fight over and over again. I worked on ag policy in DC, and I was a part of the 2002 Farm Bill, and we passed the Farm Bill, and then we have to fight for the regulations to be the way we want it to, and then we have to fight for the appropriation to be the right way, and then the next bill comes up again and we have to fight for that same thing again. And it just seems like with economics, things keep moving forward and changing all the time, but we continue to move forward, and it doesn't seem to be like the same issue all the time. So I like this job a lot better, and it's really great to be home.
Great. It's great to have you here. And it's kind of a nice segue. You've been doing this since 2008. A lot in the Montana economy has changed. There's probably a lot that is still the same. Mm-hmm. What would you like Montanans to know about the Montana economy that they may not fully appreciate or recognize?
Well, I'm going to say probably my soapbox issue that I have, and I've had this one for a long time, is actually that agriculture is not Montana's largest industry. And it's one of those things I see in the paper a lot. I hear people say a lot, and every time I hear it, I'm kind of like, and I obviously, as I said, I grew up in a rural area up in Northeast Montana. My family still has a family farm. We're over 100-year homesteaded up there, so we're over 100 years now. It's not that I don't understand how it's part of our culture, but it is not the largest industry. And I think that leads people to misunderstand how our economy works. For example, the largest GDP production industry is actually real estate, and the sale of our houses, our sale of our farms. Anytime there's value added, that gets added into our economy. And I think people, once you say that, they're like, oh yeah, home prices are really high right now. And then they start thinking about that. But to not have a full understanding of where our economy really is like it just leads us to a misunderstanding that probably puts the focus in the wrong areas. Another area, oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just going to say we're a lot more complex
Yeah.
than just being an agrarian sort of a state.
Yeah, and a lot of people, knock out the mining and agriculture and some of these very traditional industries in our state, and they're critical, particularly to bringing in export dollars into our state. But they forget about how large our professional services are. And that includes everything from legal firms to computer programming firms and, the whole tech industry that we have going on in Bozeman and to a smaller extent, Missoula. That is a great development for our economy, and it's bringing a lot of high paying jobs into our state. And I think that if we don't acknowledge some of these more modern industries, knowledge-based industries, if you want to call them that, it really puts us in a scenario where we're not picking the right programs for our schools to focus on. We're maybe not telling our kids about all the jobs that are available, and they may not know which jobs to go into. And then also, when you think about how we tax our industries or how we operate with policies, then I think it makes a difference there as well. So I think it's good to kind of think about all industries in the economy. There are no bad industries. I also think, so real estate and finance I mentioned as number one, and healthcare is one of our largest employers. But one of our smallest industries is actually the information industry. It's pretty small, doesn't create a huge amount of GDP. It's a pretty small employer. But that industry includes internet service providers and newspapers and radio. And without those two things, not one business in the state of Montana could sell their products. Yeah. So size doesn't always matter, right? Yeah, when it comes to industries, and it's super interconnected. So I don't really like to point out who's larger and who's smaller overall, but I do think it's important to think of it as a whole network and not just one industry or another.
And I think some of the good news about this entire story is that Montana's economy continues to diversify. It's something that we've been fighting for, if you will, to kind of use some of your term earlier, right? It's something that we've been aching for, is an economy that's diversified, right, so that when one part of our economy is down, another part might be doing a little bit better. And so if you think about your presentation in Kalispell on July 28th, what do you hope that folks will take away from that?
Well, one of the things that we'll be talking about is just kind of a status update in terms of inflation, the current economy, recession risks, and also what every business has been struggling with in the last couple of years, our worker shortage. Yep. And I would like people to walk away from that with more confidence that things are going to be all right. I think that in the media, particularly when there's $5 gas, we feel those impacts absolutely, and that seems like and it is super high. That's not sustainable for any consumer in Montana. Absolutely, that's a problem. But when we are focusing solely on those problems, we're kind of not seeing all of the good things that are in our economy. Some of those great things in our economy is we've had really, really strong wage growth in the last 2 years. That's amazing. That's a really great way, not just for workers to be getting more out of their jobs and have better standards of living. It's good for our businesses because those higher wages turns into more customers, right? So I think that when you, sometimes you kind of focus on just the negative news and the headlines, and I hope people are walking away from my presentations with a feeling that, we're going to make it through. We're going to be all right. And there's some really positive aspects, particularly in Montana. Our economy has been doing really well in the last few years, better than the nation's. And I think there's some great things to look forward to there.
Great. And 2022 is obviously a lot different than 2021, significantly different than 2020, needless to say. Do you see an interesting trend that may be happening in 2022 that might be noteworthy?
Well, I think the news of this year is definitely inflation. Certainly that is the big question mark and the news. We've had such strong wage growth in Montana, but also across the United States in the last couple of years. seeing inflation in our prices of goods and services isn't a surprise, because those wages go into the prices of the goods and services that are created. But adding on a couple other things going on in the global economy, the war in Ukraine, and a lot of different factors has really made this inflation hit us so hard this year. So I think that that's the topic du jour, right? Or topic per, I don't know what the word is for year in French, but that's definitely it. That being said, it's kind of, first of all, it's been a wild few years to be an economist, right? Like, I can't ask for more exciting times in my job. We've gone the lowest we've ever gone. We've had the most rapid recovery, the most number of jobs we've ever had in Montana, the fastest wage growth we've had in Montana, the fastest GDP growth that we've had in Montana in, decades. So that is also very exciting stuff. So those trends have kind of continued into this year and has ended up causing some inflation, which I think we'll get through. Like I said, there's some positive news there. That I think is kind of what we're focused on right now, is dealing with that negative inflation, which ultimately has been a result of such a strong positive economic growth in 2021 and 2020.
Great. Well, thanks again, Barb, for your willingness to participate and give us a little bit of a snapshot of what the Montana economy is going to look like on July 28th there at the Hilton Garden Inn. We're really looking forward to it. And it's a great way to kick off, which is one of the most exciting weekends for us in Montana at the Montana Chamber of Commerce, because it kicks off our big Governor's Cup weekend. We've got the Ace in the Hole reception that evening. We expect between 500 and 700 people to attend that, and it's going to be elected officials and business leaders from all over the state, and some even coming in from out of state for this once a year sort of an opportunity to connect with old friends and make new friends. And I can't think of a better way to kick off this big weekend than to have some great news and some interesting trends and facts to share about the Montana economy starting at noon at the Hilton Garden Inn there in Kalispell. And so thank you, Barb.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it and can't wait to be there. It's going to be a great weekend. And I think you're right. Everyone looks forward to this weekend to connect with people and get a good taste of what's going on in the economy.
Great. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.